You probably saw the title and wondered, what bullshit is Derek on today? And you clicked and was like, let me hear what nonsense is about to tell me. But this is not nonsense. It is not. It's something very serious. It's some secret knowledge. And I didn't make up or discover the secret knowledge. It has existed for more than 2,000 years. As long as Jesus was alive on this earth, some people are of the opinion that Jesus himself was a Gnostic. You know, Jesus was not really a Christian. Christianity was created long after Jesus was dead and hopefully ascended into heaven. But Gnosticism, in case you're trying to look for the word, it's the word in the title with a G. Uh, uh, that's how it sounds when it's spoken. So according to Gnostic philosophy, there is a God. And let me give you a disclaimer. This is not the God who became a demon. No, this is not the one. This is the one true God. And the God has a certain characteristic that the God is unknowable. So if you actually know your God, and that's not the God I'm talking about. The God is above and beyond everything. If your God is not that, that is not the God I'm talking about. The God is formless. I have no easier way to explain that. The God has no body or anything like that. The God is genderless. So if your God is a man, and I'm not talking about that God, that's probably the God who became a demon. And the God is beyond description. So if you can describe your God, that's not the God I'm talking about. So the God is not a being. You can't say God is a heavenly being or a spiritual being. That God is not a being. But the God is the source of the being. This God, no one prays to this God. No, not one person. Because that God is beyond comprehension. So if your God is a God you pray to, that's not the God I'm talking about. So this God has a name. The name of the God is the monad, Monad. And the monad emanates from a place called the pleroma, or in simple English, a fullness. And the God lives in a realm of divine beings called eons. And each of these divine beings are an aspect of the divine of the monad. Let me simplify that. That sounds very complicated. So this monad does not create anything. So if your God created anything, that's not the God I'm talking about. This is a God who is defined by a fullness. So it happened that the monad was so full, the monad overflowed like a river. And when the fullness overflowed, it created some divine beings. Yeah, both male and female, they were paired. So every male had a female and every female had a male. But they were divine beings that were created from the fullness of the monad. And so I would like to introduce a very, out of the divine beings that came about as a result of the overflowing of the monad, there was one specific one that I would like to focus on today. And it was a female divine being. Her name was Sophia. So don't confuse this with maybe your mom or your sister or your girlfriend or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. This Sophia was not human, was a divine being, an eon. All those divine beings that were created from the overflowing of the monad were called eons. So she was an eon. And Sophia was an aspect of the monad, which translates to wisdom. So Sophia was wisdom. And Sophia had some desires that we are going to explore. She wanted, let's call it a baby. She wanted a baby, but I guess she was a feminist. She didn't want a man. She kind of wanted a baby on her own. And this was against the wishes of the monad, the god, the true and noble god, and of the realm of the divine beings, the eons, the pleroma itself. So it was against the rules, but I guess Sophia was kind of proud and all that. And I also wanted to know just how it felt to have a child on her own. So she decided to go ahead. I don't know exactly how she did it. I'm not a divine being. And the stories I've read, she's not portrayed as a bad person, just a curious person who wanted to create something. Then, yeah, she got to create a being, but the being had a problem. The being was a monster, a freak of nature. And because it was created without the permission of the monad or without following the rules of the pleroma, it didn't fit in there. And Sophia was embarrassed. Sophia was embarrassed about what it created. He looked at it and was disgusted by it. So, this creation that he created, there is a name for it. It's called the Demiurge. You don't need to know what the Demiurge is, but it translates to the creation translates to a blind god. The other names like Yaldabaoth and Samael, you don't need to know all that. Blind God is enough. So this is a God who is not capable of seeing. Not physically blind, but blind at blind at a spiritual level, I would say. So this demiurge is basically the one. I know this is this is not exactly like proven or anything, but once I describe the demiurge, this the son of Sophia, you realize that it was a son, it was a he. This one had a gender. So is the God of the Old Testament or the Jewish God or the Islamic God. The God of those three religions are the same. And it also defines gods from other religions as well. The demiurge. So this demiurge, this son, who was a monster actually, looked like a monster, behaved like a monster. Sophia was embarrassed of him. So Sophia decided to hide this monster in another reality. A reality different from that of the divine things and the monad. Because she was embarrassed. But the problem became like this monster, the demiurge, was alone in this reality. So it looked around and it didn't see anyone. So it decided, I am the only one that exists, the only one that has ever existed, and the only one that will ever exist. I think that rings a bell if you are in one of these religions that I've mentioned. You've probably heard of a god who thinks that way. So this demiurge, this monster, uh, who is the god we know, decided to create a universe, a physical universe. He was bored and alone. He's like, let me create something. So this demiurge created the two human beings that we know, Adam and Eve. In other religions they created different people, but let's speak about Christianity for now and Islam and I guess the Jews. So created a universe, but and he thought he was God when he was creating all these things. He thought he was God. So he created these human beings, but he's a monster. He's not divine. He's anything. He's basically a demon, if you may use that word. So He created this world as a demon. And because he's not a fully divine being who is blameless and everything like that, he was not able to create something good. He created something that is full of suffering, full of problems. He became a god who is described as being jealous, a god who does massacres, a god who does all these things. And he said, "I'm a jealous god. Uh, uh, you are lesser beings than me," and all that. He did some so many disgusting things, and it explains why the world is so messed up. It wasn't created by the monad. It was created by the demiurge, a monster, not really a holy or true god. And I would like to say, people agree. People agree that Jesus, when Jesus was calling out Father, Father, he was not talking about this demiurge who created this world. The demiurge created this world. That's why it's so faulty and everything. And that's why everything is so messed up. So Jesus was one of the eons. Like Sophia. He was like Sophia and Eon. And the human beings, the demiurge created had some divine spark in them. They were not really divine because they're not created by the monad, but um, they had some divine spark in them because of their association to Sophia, who is divine. So they were basically divine sparks trapped in human bodies, weak and sinful and all kinds of wrong things in the human body. But there's a divine spark with them. So the monad kind of observed what was going on in this physical world that the demiurge had created and decided to send one of the eons to come and reconnect the human beings back to the pleroma where the monad exists and the other divine beings. So that was the purpose of Jesus, according to Gnostic philosophy. So, uh, so the demiurge is supposed to be. I don't know what demiurge is supposed to experience, but the Gnostic test note that the demiurge was not. I mean, it was a monster and everything, but it was not malicious out of being naturally bad or anything like that. The demiurge was just ignorant. It looked around and didn't see anything and assumed I'm the one and only true God, and I'm the creator of everything, and everything needs to worship me. And I'm a jealous God. If you don't worship me, I'm going to punish you. And getting involved in everyday's activities of human beings and all that, setting rules for them and all that. People suffering with illnesses, dying here and there. People being forced to worship this god and everything, which is what a faulty god, or if we may say a demon, that's how a demon would behave after creating the world. Like, the world would be a fucked up place, which it became and the monarchs saw the suffering of the humans and decided to send Jesus to come and bring people back to where they were, like rediscover the divine spark in them so that they can shed their body and their bones and everything and be able to go back to the pleroma and exist together with the monad as divine beings. So yeah, that's the story of how God became a demon. And later on, Sophia herself, who started all this, Sophia is like the mother of God. That's if you have ever asked yourself that question, the God of the religions that we have. So eventually, she's also restored despite her mistake. I guess she repents and she's forgiven by the eons and integrated into the pleroma, and she becomes a symbol of the whole cosmic arc and every eventual return and the saving of human beings. Thank you.